TCP is an adaptive rate control algorithm. What it's trying to do right at the end, at each system, is to establish between the sender and the receiver how fast can the network go. So what TCP does is it actually works as a pacing protocol. If you think of the network as a conveyor belt of packets, as a packet leaves the network, you want to put a packet on. Or think of it as a freeway. As a car leaves the freeway, you put another car on. Now, if you do this just right, the freeway will never clog up. Because if there's 10 cars on the freeway, as car number 1 leaves, car number 11 joins, and so on. There are always 10 cars on the freeway. So how does TCP do rate adaptation? It starts with this algorithm of flow control, ACK-based flow control, packet in, packet out. But while there are no problems, in other words, none of the packets got lost, it will gradually increase its sending rate. And because it knows the amount of time between sender and receiver, what we call the round trip time, in a steady state, with everything going fine, TCP will put one more packet on the network each round trip time interval. So slowly and surely, TCP will increase its rate. Now, networks aren't infinite. The line only has so much capacity. So at some point, when you put that extra packet in, it won't get all the way through. It will land up in a buffer. But you're still sending at that rate. So as long as you continue, the buffer starts to fill. And the next round trip time, you're now sending another extra packet. And so the buffer starts to fill more and more quickly. A full buffer gets relief at some point, and the relief is when the buffer's full and there's a new packet coming in, you drop it. That dropped packet becomes a signal in the ACK train to say, oops. And a little while later, the sender goes, oops, I've been sending too fast. I've got to send less. But think about the condition in the network. The network is full, and at least one buffer is full. So if I back off ever so slightly, that won't help. I've actually got to back off low enough to allow that buffer to drain. And so the standard thinking in TCP was to halve your rate halving. Because if I'm going sort of this fast and I rate halve, in theory, I'll go below the network speed rate, the queue will drain, and then I gradually increase again. So we get this classic sawtooth pattern. But the issue is that's a really big coarse oscillation. From speed A to speed 2A is really fast, really big. The other problem is that linear increase is tediously slow. It can take weeks to get up to gigabit speed for a single session, particularly if it's a long delay. So something's not right. The first thing we did, and we did this for about 20 years, was tinker with this. That it's still loss-based avoidance. So you push TCP to a loss point, react violently, push TCP to a loss point. And the speed at which you get to that loss point is what we've been playing with. Change linear to a polynomial, x squared, x cubed. The current one in vogue is a polynomial function, x cubed. And so it sort of gets close to the point where you get lost and just sort of gradually moves in theory. So almost everyone runs cubic these days. It's a sloppy, inefficient protocol, but it's the best we know. It also needs big buffers. Remember where we started with buffers and switching? Because what cubic kind of assumes is that the buffer space is equal to the amount of traffic on the link that switch is driving, the delay bandwidth product. So to make cubic work, you need relatively large buffers in your network. Now, what we want is cheap and fast. And what we're getting is fast, but not so cheap. And we'd like something better.